Jake Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he trudged through the dark tunnel. The city sewers were never a pleasant place to work, but they paid the bills. As a maintenance inspector for the city's underground infrastructure, he spent more time beneath the streets than above them. Just 3 more junction points to check, he muttered to himself, shining his flashlight along the curved walls. His boots splashed through shallow water as he consulted his digital map. Something wasn't right. According to the blueprint, he should have reached Junction B17 by now, but instead, he faced an unfamiliar fork in the tunnel. That's not supposed to be there, Jake said, tapping his tablet screen. The device flickered, then went dark. Great. The moisture down here always ruined electronics eventually. He'd have to navigate by memory and hope for the best. Jake chose the right tunnel, marking the wall with chalk to track his path. The passage narrowed as he walked, changing from standard maintenance tunnels to something older, something that didn't match any sewer design he'd studied during training. After 20 minutes of walking, Jake admitted the truth: he was lost. The tunnels had become a maze, with odd turns and chambers that weren't on any city map. He was considering turning back when a faint blue light caught his eye, glowing from around a corner ahead. "Hello?" he called out, hoping another maintenance worker might be down here. No answer came. The blue glow grew stronger as Jake approached. It pulsed with a rhythm almost like breathing. Natural light couldn't do that. Curiosity pushed fear aside as he rounded the corner. Jake froze. The narrow tunnel opened into a large circular chamber at least 30 feet across. The ceiling arched high above, covered in strange, glowing symbols. But it wasn't the chamber that made Jake's heart skip a beat. In the center of the room stood 3 women, the most beautiful women Jake had ever seen. They turned toward him simultaneously, their eyes widening in alarm. "Please don't be afraid," Jake said quickly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm just lost. I'm a maintenance worker." The women exchanged glances. They looked human at first glance, but as Jake's eyes adjusted to the blue light, he noticed subtle differences. Their skin had a faint shimmer to it, like mother of pearl. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, with unusual colors: violet, silver, and deep green. Their hair floated slightly, as if underwater, despite the still air in the chamber. "You should not be here," said the tallest one. Her voice had an odd musical quality, with an accent Jake couldn't place. She wore what looked like a form-fitting jumpsuit made of material that shifted colors as she moved. "I know," Jake replied. "Like I said, I got lost. My map stopped working." The shortest of the 3 stepped forward. Her silver eyes studied Jake with intense curiosity. "He is not a threat, Lyra. He is merely a worker who has strayed from his path. Or so he claims, Mira," said the 3rd woman, her green eyes narrowing with suspicion. She held something in her hand that resembled a thin metal rod. "He could be a scout." Jake blinked in confusion. "A scout? Look, I don't know who you think I am, but I just fix pipes." "Who are you? What is this place?" The 3 women conferred in whispers, speaking a language unlike any Jake had ever heard. It sounded like music and mathematics combined. Finally, the tall one, Lyra, faced him again. "We are travelers," she said carefully. "This place is our temporary shelter." Jake looked around the chamber more carefully. In the corner, he noticed what appeared to be sleeping pods. Strange devices and tools lined the walls. A holographic display floated in the air, showing what looked like star charts. The realization hit Jake like a truck. "You're not from Earth," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. The green-eyed woman sighed. "Well done, human. Now what do you intend to do with this knowledge?" Jake stood frozen in place, his mind racing to process what he was seeing. These weren't just beautiful women, they were aliens, actual extraterrestrials hiding beneath the city streets. I don't know what to do," Jake admitted honestly. "I wasn't expecting to find anyone down here, let alone people from another planet." The one called Mira approached him, her silver eyes studying his face. "Your heart rate is elevated, but you're not displaying typical fear responses. Interesting. Give him time, Mira, said Lyra, the tall one. Humans often need moments to process new information. She turned to Jake with a gentler expression. Please understand, we mean no harm to you or anyone on your world. The third alien, still watching Jake suspiciously, finally lowered the metal rod in her hand. I am Cora, she said. If Lyra believes you pose no threat, I will accept her judgment, for now. Jake noticed how the three of them moved with unusual grace, as if the Earth's gravity barely affected them. Their skin continued to shimmer in the blue light, creating patterns that shifted with their emotions. Why are you hiding in the sewers? Jake asked, finding his voice again. If you came in peace, why not make contact with our governments? A bitter laugh escaped Cora's lips. Your governments would study us, experiment on us. We've observed enough of your species to know what happens to those who are different. Lyra nodded sadly. We are refugees, Jake Miller. Our home world, Elara, was conquered 6 cycles ago by the Drux Empire. They are a warlike species that expands through conquest. We were scientists, not soldiers. Mira added, gesturing to the technology around them. When the invasion began, we escaped in a research vessel. It was damaged during our flight. Earth was the closest habitable planet we could reach. Jake's eyes widened as he processed this information. So you crashed here? A controlled emergency landing, Cora corrected. In your ocean 3 months ago. We salvaged what we could and found these tunnels, old structures your city built over long ago. Lyra moved to a glowing console and waved her hand over it. A 3-dimensional map appeared, showing their location deep beneath the city. These tunnels aren't on any modern maps, she explained. They were perfect for us to hide while we repair our communication array. Communication array? Jake asked. You're trying to call for help? Mira nodded. There is a resistance movement fighting the Drux. If we can contact them, they might send extraction. But our equipment was damaged in the landing. Jake looked around the chamber with new understanding. What he had taken for strange decorations were actually sophisticated technology beyond anything humans had developed. Why Earth? He asked. Of all the planets you could have landed on? The 3 aliens exchanged meaningful glances before Lyra spoke. Earth wasn't random, Jake Miller. Your planet has been observed for generations. Humans are special. Special how? Jake pressed. Cora stepped forward. Your species possesses unusual adaptability and resilience. Most life forms in our galaxy are specialized, evolved for specific environments. Humans can survive almost anywhere. The Drux fear this potential, Mira added softly. They monitor developing worlds closely. If they knew we were here, they would come, Lyra finished grimly. We cannot let that happen. Jake ran his hand through his hair, trying to absorb everything he was hearing. Part of him wanted to run, to pretend he never stumbled into this chamber. But a stronger part, the part that had always dreamed of something more than fixing pipes beneath a city, wanted to know more. So what happens now? He asked. I found you. What are you going to do with me? Lyra approached him slowly. That depends on you, Jake Miller. We need time and safety to complete our work. Can we trust you to keep our existence secret? Jake looked at each of the 3 alien women, sensing the weight of his answer. His ordinary life had suddenly become extraordinary. Whatever he decided next would change everything. Yes, he said finally. You can trust me. I'll help you. The tension in the chamber eased visibly as Jake pledged his help. Lyra's shoulders relaxed, and even the suspicious Cora nodded with grudging acceptance. Thank you, Mira said, her silver eyes reflecting the blue glow of the chamber. Trust is not given lightly among those who have lost their home. Jake set his maintenance pack down and looked around the chamber with new curiosity. So, what exactly can I do to help? I'm just a maintenance worker. I don't know anything about alien technology. Lyra gestured for him to follow her to a workstation where components lay disassembled. Your knowledge of these tunnels could be valuable. We need certain materials to complete our repairs, and moving around your world is complicated for us. We can alter our appearance somewhat, Cora explained, touching a thin band on her wrist. Her skin immediately lost its shimmer, and her features shifted subtly to appear more human. But we cannot maintain the disguise for long periods. It drains our energy. Jake whistled softly. That's amazing. How does it work? Light refraction combined with minor bioelectric field manipulation. Mira answered simply, as if explaining how to tie shoelaces. But the technology is incomplete without proper calibration. Earth's atmosphere has properties we did not anticipate. Lyra touched a panel on the wall, revealing a hidden compartment filled with strange devices. She removed what looked like a thin crystal disc about 6 inches across. This is a knowledge transfer matrix, she said, holding it carefully. With your permission, we can share information directly. It would help you understand our situation better. Jake eyed the disc nervously. Is it safe? Completely, Mira assured him. It creates a temporary neural link. Think of it as learning through experience rather than explanation. After a moment's hesitation, Jake nodded. Okay. Let's do it. Lyra placed the disc against his forehead. It adhered gently to his skin, cool at first, then warming. Jake gasped as images flooded his mind, a beautiful world with twin moons, cities built in harmony with nature, and then darkness as massive ships blocked the sky. He saw destruction, escape, and finally, Earth from orbit. When Lyra removed the disc, Jake staggered slightly, overwhelmed by the information. Your world was beautiful, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Now you understand why we must remain hidden, Cora said quietly. The Drux would not hesitate to do the same to Earth. Jake's mind raced with the new knowledge. He now understood their technology at a basic level, not enough to build it, but enough to recognize its purpose. The communication array needs conductive materials you don't have, he realized. I could help get those. There's an electronics recycling center near the downtown tunnel junction. Mira smiled, her expression brightening. That would be immensely helpful. We've been limited in what we could salvage without drawing attention. Jake checked his watch, surprised to see several hours had passed. I need to report back soon, or they'll send someone looking for me. Take this, Lyra said, handing him a small device no bigger than a coin. It will help you find your way back here. Press it once to activate, twice to deactivate. Jake pocketed the device. I'll come back tomorrow with supplies. Is there anything else you need? Food? Water? We can synthesize nutrients from basic elements, Cora explained. But fresh water would be welcome. The tunnel supply is less than ideal. As Jake prepared to leave, Mira approached him with something in her hand. It was a small crystal, similar to the knowledge disk but smaller. This is a communicator, she said. If you face danger or cannot return, it will alert us. Jake accepted it, carefully placing it in his shirt pocket. Thank you. I'll be careful. At the chamber entrance, he turned back for one last look. The 3 alien women stood together, their otherworldly beauty enhanced by the blue light surrounding them. It struck Jake how vulnerable they were, despite their advanced technology, strangers on a planet that would fear them if discovered. I'll be back tomorrow, he promised. You can count on me. As Jake retraced his steps through the tunnels, guided by the alien device, his mind spun with possibilities. 24 hours ago, his biggest concern had been a leaking junction box. Now he was helping refugees from another world. For the first time in years, Jake felt truly alive. Jake returned to work the next day with a backpack full of supplies. He'd collected discarded electronics from his apartment building's recycling bin and bought several gallons of purified water. To avoid suspicion, he told his supervisor he needed to reinspect the eastern tunnels due to some anomalous readings. Just be careful down there, Miller, his supervisor had warned. There's been talk of unusual power fluctuations in that sector. The electric company is sending their own team to investigate. Jake's heart had skipped a beat at those words. The aliens' technology must be causing detectable energy signatures. They were no longer completely hidden. Now, as he navigated the forgotten tunnels using Lyra's device, Jake moved with urgency. He found the hidden chamber entrance and slipped inside, calling out softly, "It's Jake." The three aliens looked up from their work. Various components were spread across the floor in a complex arrangement that reminded Jake of a circuit board, but far more advanced. "You returned," Cora said, sounding mildly surprised. "I promised I would," Jake replied, setting down his backpack. "But we might have a problem. People are noticing power fluctuations in this area. They're sending teams to investigate." Lyra's expression turned grave. "We feared this might happen. Our primary energy converter uses a crystalline matrix that generates a unique energy signature. Can you mask it somehow?" Jake asked as he unpacked the water bottles and electronics. Mira examined the items Jake had brought. "These will help considerably." "Thank you, Jake." She picked up a circuit board from an old laptop. "With these materials, we might be able to create a dampening field, but it would slow our repairs." "Better slow than discovered," Cora pointed out. She approached Jake and took a water bottle, examining it curiously before opening it. "How long until these investigators arrive?" "Tomorrow, maybe the day after," Jake said. "We don't have much time." Lyra made a decision. "We must relocate deeper into the tunnel network. This chamber is too close to active maintenance routes." Jake nodded in agreement. "I know a place. There's an old emergency bunker from the Cold War era, about half a mile further down. It was built to withstand nuclear attacks, so the walls are thick concrete. Might help mask your energy signature." The aliens quickly began disassembling their equipment. Their movements were swift and coordinated, like a well-rehearsed dance. Within minutes, they had packed everything into containers that somehow seemed to hold more than their visible dimensions should allow. "Spatial compression technology," Mira explained, noticing Jake's amazed expression. "Quite useful for refugees on the move." As they prepared to leave, Jake heard distant voices echoing through the tunnels. He froze, listening intently. "Someone's coming," he whispered. "Now." Cora immediately touched her wrist device, activating her human disguise. Lyra and Mira followed suit, their alien features fading to more Earth-like appearances. "Not enough time to move everything," Lyra said tensely. "Jake, can you delay them?" Jake nodded, thinking quickly. "Head down that passage." He pointed to a narrow tunnel. "It connects to the old maintenance shaft. I'll meet you at the bunker after I deal with whoever this is." The three gathered their most important equipment and slipped into the passage. Mira paused before leaving, pressing something into Jake's hand, a small device shaped like a teardrop. "If you're in danger, squeeze this," she instructed. "We'll come back for you." Jake pocketed the device and moved toward the chamber entrance, deliberately scuffing his boots to create noise. He rounded the corner and nearly collided with two men in dark suits carrying scanning equipment. "Whoa! You guys scared me," Jake said, feigning surprise. "What are you doing down here?" The taller man eyed Jake suspiciously. "Utility inspection." "Who are you?" Jake tapped the city maintenance badge on his chest. "Jake Miller, sewer maintenance. This section isn't on today's inspection schedule. We're investigating unusual energy readings," the second man said, holding up a device that was blinking rapidly. "Something down here is generating an unusual electromagnetic field." Jake shrugged casually, though his heart pounded. "Could be the old power lines in this section. They were never properly decommissioned. I was just checking them myself." The scanner in the man's hand beeped more intensely as he pointed it toward the passage where the aliens had disappeared. "What's down there?" he asked. "Dead end," Jake lied smoothly. "Collapsed during the earthquake back in '89. I was actually heading back up to report it." The men exchanged glances, clearly skeptical. "Mind if we take a look?" the taller one asked, already moving forward. Jake knew he couldn't stop them without raising suspicion. He needed to buy time for the aliens to get far enough away. "Sure," he said, falling in step beside them. But watch your step. These old tunnels aren't as stable as they look. As they walked, Jake silently squeezed the teardrop device in his pocket, hoping the aliens would receive the warning in time. Jake led the two men through the tunnels, deliberately taking a longer route to the chamber. Every extra minute gave Lyra, Mira, and Cora more time to escape with their equipment. You seem to know these tunnels well, the shorter man observed, his scanner still beeping steadily. Been working maintenance for 5 years, Jake replied with a casual shrug. You learn all the shortcuts eventually. The taller agent frowned as they walked. These tunnels aren't on the standard city grid maps. Lot of things aren't on the maps, Jake said truthfully. City's old. Infrastructure gets forgotten, built over. They finally reached the chamber, now empty except for a few unimportant items the aliens had left behind. The blue glow was gone, leaving only the dim light from emergency fixtures in the ceiling. The agent's scanner beeped frantically as they entered the space. The shorter man walked a slow circle, pointing his device at different sections of the wall. Something was definitely here, he said. The residual energy signature is strongest in this room. The taller agent knelt down, examining marks on the floor. These don't look like normal wear patterns. He picked up a small crystal shard that had been overlooked in the hasty departure. What do you make of this? Jake's stomach tightened as he watched the man examine the alien crystal. Probably just quartz. These tunnels run deep. The agent pocketed the crystal and stood up. We're going to need to cordon off this area for further investigation. That might be a problem, Jake said, thinking quickly. This junction controls water flow to 3 city districts. Closing it would require special permits, emergency notices to residents. The agents exchanged a meaningful look. We have authorization, the taller one said firmly. Your department will be notified. In the meantime, this area is now restricted. Jake nodded, keeping his expression neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. Understood. I'll need to report this to my supervisor. You do that, the shorter agent said, already making a call on his phone. And Miller? Don't mention the energy readings. Just say there's structural concerns. Sure thing, Jake agreed, backing toward the exit. I'll get out of your way. Once out of sight, Jake moved quickly through the tunnels toward the old bunker. The teardrop device in his pocket had grown warm, pulsing with a gentle rhythm that somehow felt reassuring. The aliens had received his warning. After 20 minutes of careful navigation, Jake found the heavy metal door of the Cold War bunker. It looked long abandoned, rusted at the edges, but when he pushed against it, it swung open silently. Inside, the bunker had been transformed. The aliens' technology illuminated the space with the same blue glow from their previous hideout. Lyra was adjusting a device that seemed to be creating a bubble of energy around the entire room. Jake! Mira exclaimed when she saw him. You're safe. We received your alert. Government agents, Jake explained, catching his breath. They found a piece of crystal you left behind. They're going to seal off the chamber. Cora cursed in her musical language. If they analyze that crystal, they might recognize its extraterrestrial composition. How much equipment did you have to leave behind? Jake asked. Nothing critical, Lyra assured him. But the fact that they detected our energy signature is concerning. They will likely expand their search. Jake sat down on a metal crate, the weight of their situation sinking in. What happens if they find you? The 3 aliens shared a solemn look before Mira answered. Best case, we become research subjects, imprisoned for study. Worst case, they consider us a threat and eliminate us. Or they attempt to weaponize our technology, Cora added grimly, which would inevitably attract the Drux's attention. Jake looked around at the bunker, trying to assess their situation. This place should be secure for now. The walls are lead-lined and 3 feet thick. But we need a more permanent solution. Lyra approached with a holographic display hovering above her palm. Our repairs are 80% complete. With the materials you brought, we might finish within 3 days. And then what? Jake asked. We contact the resistance, Mira said. If they can send a stealth vessel, we might leave Earth without detection. Jake felt an unexpected pang at the thought of them leaving. In just 2 days, these alien refugees had completely changed his life. The idea of returning to his mundane existence seemed impossible now. What if I don't want you to leave? He said quietly. Cora looked at him with surprise, her green eyes softening for the first time. You've known us for only 2 days, human. And in those 2 days, I've seen more wonders than in my entire life before, Jake replied. There's more out there than fixing pipes and living paycheck to paycheck. Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Jake Miller, you have shown us kindness when we expected none. Whatever happens, that connection will not be forgotten. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Jake continued his regular maintenance shifts during the day, carefully avoiding the cordoned-off area where the agents had established a small research station. At night, he returned to the bunker with supplies and news from above. They've brought in more people, Jake reported on the third evening, setting down a bag of tools he'd smuggled from work. Scientists, military types. They're expanding the search area, using more advanced scanning equipment. Lyra nodded gravely as she worked on the final adjustments to their communication array. The device now filled the center of the bunker, a complex arrangement of crystals and circuitry that pulsed with increasing strength. We're nearly ready, she said. The signal amplifier is calibrated to penetrate Earth's atmosphere without detection by your satellites. Mira approached with a small device that displayed a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding tunnels. The government search has come within 200 meters of our location. The dampening field is working, but it may not hold if they come closer. Jake ran his hands through his hair, anxiety gnawing at him. Over the past days, he'd grown closer to the 3 aliens, especially Mira, whose curiosity about Earth matched his fascination with their world. The thought of them being captured, or worse, was unbearable. How much longer do you need? He asked. The transmission window opens in 6 hours, Cora replied, making adjustments to a crystalline component. If the Resistance receives our signal, they could reach Earth within 2 planetary cycles. 2 days, Jake translated. Can we hold out that long? Before anyone could answer, an alarm sounded, a high-pitched tone from one of their monitoring devices. Cora rushed to check it. They've detected an energy spike, she said urgently. Our calibration test must have leaked through the dampening field. Jake moved to the bunker door, pressing his ear against it. Distant voices echoed through the tunnels. They're coming. We need to move again. We can't, Lyra said firmly. The array is too delicate to relocate now. If we disrupt the alignment, we'll miss the transmission window. Desperation clawed at Jake's insides. He'd promised to keep them safe, and now they were cornered. An idea formed in his mind, risky, but possible. I'll lead them away, he decided. Create a diversion. Maybe damage one of the main power conduits to cause interference with their scanners. Too dangerous, Mira objected, her silver eyes wide with concern. If they connect you to us. They won't, Jake assured her. I know these tunnels better than they do. I can lose them and circle back. After a brief debate, they agreed it was their only option. Before Jake left, Lyra handed him a small device shaped like a star. A token from our world, she explained. It contains coordinates, star maps of safe worlds where humans would be welcome. If things go badly, this knowledge shouldn't be lost. Jake clutched the star, understanding its significance. I'll be back, he promised. Just be ready to transmit the moment the window opens. With a final look at the 3 aliens who had changed his life, Jake slipped out into the tunnels. He worked quickly, using his maintenance knowledge to create a cascading power failure in a section far from the bunker. Alarms blared as emergency systems activated. Jake heard shouts as the government team rushed toward the disturbance. For hours, he led them through a wild chase in the labyrinth of tunnels, creating small disturbances to keep them searching in the wrong direction. His plan worked, perhaps too well. When he finally managed to circle back toward the bunker, exhausted and dirty, he found himself cut off by another search team approaching from the opposite direction. Jake pressed himself into a narrow service pipe, holding his breath as agents passed by. When they were gone, he checked his watch. The transmission window would open in 10 minutes. With no other options, Jake took a dangerous route through partially flooded tunnels, emerging just meters from the bunker door. He slipped inside, dripping wet and gasping for breath. "It's done!" Lyra announced the moment he entered. The communication array glowed with intense blue light, energy spiraling up toward a focusing crystal at its peak. "The Resistance has received our signal," Mira said, her face lit with hope. "They've dispatched a vessel. Extraction in 48 hours. Relief flooded through Jake as he collapsed against the wall. They had a chance now. "What happens when they arrive?" he asked. Cora approached him, her usual suspicion replaced with something like respect. "We leave Earth. Return to the stars to continue our fight against the Drux." "And me?" Jake asked, looking between the three aliens. "What about me?" Lyra, Mira, and Cora exchanged glances before Lyra spoke. "That depends on you, Jake Miller," she said softly. "Our people need allies like you, humans who see beyond their own world. The Resistance values adaptability, courage, and compassion. You've shown all three. You're offering me a place with you." Jake could hardly believe what he was hearing. Mira smiled, her silver eyes shining. "Earth is just one world among millions. Would you like to see them?" Jake thought of his life before, the lonely apartment, the mindless job, the endless sameness of each day. Then he looked at the three extraordinary beings before him and the technology that spoke of wonders beyond imagination. "Yes," he answered without hesitation. "I want to see everything." As the communication array powered down, Jake felt something he hadn't experienced in years: purpose. In helping these beautiful strangers from the stars, he'd found not just adventure, but a cause worth fighting for. In 2 days, a ship would come. Earth would shrink to a blue dot behind him, and ahead would lie a galaxy of possibilities. Jake smiled at the thought. Sometimes, getting lost was the only way to find your true path.